Imagine taking a DNA test and finding out you're not from where you thought you were, right? Maybe you grew up thinking you were Italian, but most of your DNA comes back as French. It happens all the time. But now I want you to imagine you're not from the planet you thought you were from. Maybe you already knew that. I know that sounds like science fiction, but the possibility is gaining a lot of traction in some UFO circles because on a recent podcast, science fiction writer and philosopher Jason Rezajdrajani says he was told about a secret CIA program by former U.S. Army Sergeant Lynn Buchanan. And Buchanan seemingly claims that he's a psychic spy who worked for the government's remote viewing program during the Cold War and was approached by a group of aliens known as the Nordics who've been hiding out in plain sight, living quietly in small American towns. At least they're hiding out for now. Because according to Giorgiani, Buchanan claims a UAP researcher named Christopher Kit Green believes he may have found a way to identify these secret aliens by searching for a specific non-human or hybrid genetic marker inside DNA databases like Ancestry and 23andMe. And on the pie chart listing ethnicities, there's something sometimes called a wedge. It's called other, which means unknown, unidentifiable. So UFO theorists believe that could mean extraterrestrial. Now, to be clear, I get it. I know this all sounds unbelievable, right? And yes, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, but as new UAP files continue to be released by the Pentagon, is it fair to at least ask whether some of these things that we once laughed off maybe deserve some serious scientific scrutiny? You know who I'm bringing in. Avi Loeb, astrophysicist, Harvard professor, one of the leading voices pushing for a fact-based, evidence-first approach to the search for life beyond Earth. Avi, always good to see you. Happy to separate fact from fiction. This a real thing?
Well, thanks for having me. I don't think it's very likely to be a real thing. I mean, it's possible the CIA or anyone else might have been curious about this question, but there is no scientific basis to lend any credibility to this possibility because, first of all, you know, for biological beings to travel interstellar distances, it requires a very unusual genetic engineering because we know that, you know, these trips, even at the speed of light, would take tens of thousands of years. And, you know, they are very hazardous because of bombardment by cosmic rays. You know, humans cannot survive for more than a few years on Mars or the moon.
I hear that.
Without
I hear that. I guess the question is there a genetic marker that you could search for potentially?
Yeah, I mean, about the origin of our species, you know, of course, there could be paths that led to humans that are not fully recognized. That definitely is possible. And you could have also markers within the DNA that indicate some effect of transfer of life from, let's say, Mars to Earth. What is called panspermia. You can imagine situations like that. But, you know, the DNA is not necessarily universal throughout the cosmos. You know, the kind of genetic code we find nowadays in humans, you know, was very different if you go back a billion years on Earth or a few billion years. There weren't even cells, eukaryotic genesis, you know, of cells in which the DNA is packaged. It only came about 2 billion years ago on Earth. That was less than half the age of the Earth. So imagining someone visiting us with similar DNA characteristics is extremely unlikely to be relevant because, you know, there is also the possibility of the helicity, the way the molecules of the DNA are organized, to be exactly opposite, and then it would be catastrophic for us to even touch such beings. I recommend not shaking the hand of an alien if you find one. It's
I'll
really
keep
dangerous.
that in mind. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Well, so this whole Nordic thing, the Nordics supposedly looking like us, what do you make about that?
Well, there are Nordic people on Earth, right? So, you know, obviously you can find them in crash sites of fighter jets, you know, in battlefields. So there could be a program for retrieval and reverse engineering of materials from, you know, aircrafts that were manufactured by adversarial nations. And some of them may be Nordics, some of them may be from another ethnic origin. So the whole idea that there are 4 species of aliens visiting us, I think, perhaps is a rumor that came out of retrieving pilots from crash sites that belong to different nations. You know, but I think it's extremely unlikely that indeed we're dealing with a being that somehow mingled with humans and made babies out of that. That is ridiculous.
You know what it is, Avi? Nobody trusts the government. So this idea of, oh, they're secretly looking through ancestry sites to try to map out if they're extraterrestrials, I think that's a part of this as well, right? Is the government being transparent?
It may well be that someone in government had the idea of checking. I mean, that's quite possible, but that idea itself is highly questionable, scientifically speaking. So I would say this person, whoever thought about the idea of checking the DNA, is not very credible, scientifically speaking. But in general, there may well be evidence for extraterrestrial materials, you know, and other things that the government holds, and they may be in corporations like Lockheed Martin, like Meter. Recently, Burleson, Representative Burleson was asking Meter to respond to a request. So I think, yes, we should check what the government knows and learn as much as possible, and maybe help them figure things out, because apparently they're at a loss if they're asking for information of this nature.
Well, something to think about. Avi Loeb, thank you so much. Again, separating fact from fiction for us. I always appreciate it. Good seeing you.
Thanks for having me.